Welcome to Perspectives Online and on air from WFSU Public Media. I'm Tom Flanigan. This program pre-recorded the day of Tuesday, May 12th, so we aren't able to leverage in your calls and emails at some point in the future, sooner rather than later. We certainly hope we'll be able to get your input back in the program, and at some point we'll return to the studio as well. But we are home-based and virtual here. We hope you will enjoy our proceedings today, because over the past week, if you notice, we have seen an increasing opening of businesses in Florida. Of course, Georgia was ahead of us there by about a week. We have things like restaurants now with capacity restrictions. We have barbershops and beauty salons that just opened up, again, with some limitations. Several other kinds of businesses now up and running, kind of, sort of. But one variety of enterprise that has yet to welcome back customers in a full-throated sort of way are gyms and other workout kinds of facilities. And for many of us, you know, it's kind of a shame, because working from home can sure work up an appetite, we have found, to our chagrin. And there are sure a lot of jokes flying around about the COVID-19 15 phenomena. Those who have been able to do their jobs from home and for whom proximity to the kitchen has kind of been a bit too tempting have packed on maybe 10, 15 more pounds along the way. So how do you deal with it? We've got some great experts to help guide us in that endeavor on today's Perspectives as we hope to return to normal. Once again, we are using the Zoom platform to interface with our guests, and let's go around and meet them. We welcome back the chair of the Leon County Commission and one of the most physically fit elected officials that we know, Bryan Desloge. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks for that compliment, Tom. I'll take it all day long.
And I love the background there, because we do have trails open in Leon County and a lot of outdoor options for folks to get out and run around if they're so inclined now.
Absolutely, yeah. 700 miles of trails in our area, actually.
And that's something that we should not forget. And we got some beautiful ones too. And wow, with the way the weather has been here the past week, with relatively low humidities and nice moderate temperatures, can't think of a better outdoor exercise option than to get out on some of our beautiful trails here. So again, I love the background, Bryan. That is really great. We also have some folks from Premier Health and Fitness. We have Program Director and Communications Specialist, Tonya Little. How you doing, Tonya? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
I got to ask you, what's the status out at Premier right now, and indeed other gyms here in our area? Everything's still kind of locked in until we get the word, or what?
Everything is locked in until we get the governor's green light. I think many of our gyms in town, including Premier, we're starting to communicate our reopening plans, because gyms will look pretty different upon reopening. So
I would suspect you're definitely right on there. Well, it's not just the exercise, it's not just the burning of the calories that is important as we try to get back to fighting trim, if you will. It is also making sure we have the right kind of calories and in the right amounts. So you have brought an associate, Annie Justmann, who's the nutritionist over at Premier, and joins us by telephone. Out running around, is that what's going on with you right now, Annie?
That is true. I just finished up my run at Forest Meadows, and now I'm taking a nice walk, enjoying this absolutely gorgeous weather. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a joy to have you too. And before we get into the rest of our panel, what's the status out at Forest Meadows? I know when we had that twister come through the northern part of the county, that did a number on Forest Meadows and some of the neighborhoods out there. What is it looking like right now?
Yeah, it's clear but different. It's actually my first time coming back here since that little twister a couple weeks ago, and it is pretty clear right now, but it is a little different.
Yeah, we've seen that in a number of neighborhoods too. Luckily, we didn't have any serious injury, but boy, there was some property damage there. Continuing with our panel, we welcome a guy back who, like Commissioner Desloge, wears multiple hats. He's the executive director of Choose Tallahassee, but today talking about Move Tallahassee, and that is Gregg Patterson.
Hello, thank you for having me on. I look forward. This looks like a fun conversation.
This is going to be great. Yeah, we can't wait to get moving on that. And the people who move more than most are, of course, members of the Gulf Winds Track Club and race director, Mary Jean Yon, who helped in organizing this panel, is the last member of our crew to join us here today. Mary Jean, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Tom. Happy to be here today. Sort of. Almost here.
Almost here, virtually here anyway, but at least we can see you and talk to you at the same time. As long as we are with you, Mary Jean, let's start there. As far as the various events, of which there are always so many associated with the Gulf Winds Track Club and other running groups around town, that is kind of sort of on hold too. How do you folks continue your activities in the world of social distancing and the wearing of masks and all that sort of thing?
Right. So, you know, when Tonya made that statement about the gym's going to be different, look different, feel different, that's kind of the world of racing these days too. It's challenging. We've had a couple of our established races get postponed or rescheduled, or in one case, probably our most successful was Springtime Tallahassee, who's a big race for Tallahassee, just went virtual. And the beauty of that is it's a virtual race is like, you know, we just tell people, go out, run 6.2 miles, whatever day works best for you. Tell us your time, swing by, pick up a shirt. The race directors put the shirts and the medals on their front porch and said, don't knock on the door, just come get your shirts and your medals. And people from different states all over the country, lots of Tallahassee people. I believe they told me they got 259 people who registered strictly for the virtual registration. And the joy of something like that is that you didn't have a fear factor among your new runners and racers. You just go do it on your own, mark your time, there you go, as opposed to how many people passed you in that last 10 yards before the finish line came. And I think, Tom, when you and I were talking, I was saying how great it's been to just see everybody out and about, you know, walking the streets, running the trails. And so we're just trying to be real creative with our upcoming races and figure out the best ways to do things so that we do maintain those public health guidelines and social distancing.
You talked about running the neighborhoods, and Commissioner Desloge, I'm sure you've seen that around your neck of the woods and the rest of Leon County as well. I don't think there has ever been as much foot traffic in our little part of a northwest neighborhood here off of High Road, probably since we moved here back in the 70s. There are constantly people out walking their dogs, doing a little bit of light jogging. We don't see any pretty heavy duty running at this point, but people are out and about, and that's got to be at least one contributor to getting us kind of back to normal, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because I've got people every day that come to me and say, wow, I just found this new trail. Or for instance, I ride from my neighborhood near McClay down to Lake Jackson through Overstreet and back behind Phipps there, and took a friend there recently. He would never been back there. He grew up here in town. You know, it's amazing the people that are getting out and kind of starting to explore a little bit. And I think you're going to find that continues after this, after we get past the quarantine period. So it's exciting. I mean, we got a lot to be thankful for as far as the trail system. As you pointed out, the spectacular weather has made it almost bearable in the grand scheme of things.
As we start, though, kind of doing this transition, though, Bryan, back to a more regular kind of thing, which, again, we hope is sooner rather than later, local governments, particularly Leon County, City of Tallahassee, some state government agencies as well, have been able to home base lots of the workforce. And talking again about the COVID-19 15, is there anything that you're looking at as far as an employer to help the employees, the workers, get a little bit more fit as they come off of the home-based stuff? Because nationally, this has been a problem. I saw something, I think it was in Forbes magazine the other day. There has been a distinct increase in the number of excess pounds that many of us are now carrying because of this situation.
Yeah, we've actually got a full-time wellness coordinator we hired years ago who, you know, gets out and talks about smoking cessation and yoga and exercise and things like that. I think what you're going to find, like I said, a lot of changes. We never quit delivering services. So a lot of the people on the front lines, the first responders, public works, they've been doing the same job, just under a little different circumstances. A lot of the people, like we shuttered all the libraries. So we kind of repositioned and repurposed a lot of the librarians and people that are on staff. I don't know of any specific programs other than we're going to have to hit the ground running when we do reopen officially. You know, we're showing a $15 million shortfall at this point. We're going to have to make that up. It's going to be interesting times in front of us, though. But Tallahassee, Leon County in general, you know, we had $1 billion of economic impact of tourism last year, and in no small part, the outdoors and the recreational things and the trails. And frankly, what they're expecting is not a lot of air travel, not a lot of international travel, a lot of regional travel, and we're the kind of market that is perfect. So our Tourist Development Council has already teed up and said, you know, we're going to start welcoming people in. So the more people in our community know about what's in our backyard, the better we are positioned for that. So we need more people out on the trails would be my ask.
And this past weekend, of course, the Tallahassee Museum reopened, and even though they're enforcing social distancing and all that, when you got 52 acres, you can spread out a lot of folks over that amount of landscape. So yeah, Russell Dawes and those guys aren't worried about having too many people not socially distanced in a place like that.
Yeah, their 25%, Tom, is 600 people. I just got off a call with them a few minutes ago. So it's not, we could take a lot of people out there. Yeah.
Well, for folks who are jonesing for the regular workout, Tonya, little at a place like Premier or some of the other fitness centers around town here, how do you transition that to a home environment? You may not have kettlebells, you may not have other free weights and treadmills and those kinds of machines that are in abundance at a facility like Premier. How do you compensate and make do with things that you may just find around the house?
You really have to get creative when you're working out from home. One thing that we did when we closed our doors was we actually started offering free virtual workouts through Instagram. And we started building a YouTube library, and those exercises were offered primarily with body weight. And over time, as our instructors started to see a following, we used things like a Comcast cable box, like the cardboard box. That was a prop. People have used pillows. Water jugs are a great prop if you don't have dumbbells. But really, you can do a lot with your body weight. And so I think our approach to staying active since we've closed is be adaptable, be open-minded, and explore new things that you may not have been doing before. So running, walking, biking, outdoor biking. One of our instructors was solely indoor rider. And finally she was like, you know, since we've closed, I miss the bike, but I can't get inside. So I bought a bike. So just opening your mind and trying new things has been something we've been encouraging people to do.
Yeah, I hear that the Peloton folks have seen a huge upsurge in business since this hit, and so yeah, biking seems to be a very popular option when it comes to this. But again, more calories burned. It makes it easier if you have fewer calories coming in. And Annie Justmann, that is your bailiwick there. What are some of the, I guess, basic bits of advice that you offer people who are trying to come off of the, hey, I got a little bit of hunger, I'm running to the kitchen for a quick pick-me-up here in the afternoon as I go through these spreadsheets? How can you fight the cravings and try to eat a little bit healthier while you are working out of the house? Is Annie still with us?
Hello, I'm sorry about that. I had to unmute myself. I think that's really
okay.
important to think about, and just to kind of check in to make sure you're doing the most basic things you can be doing to keep yourself healthy. So not looking into secrets or going to Google to search, but just checking in to make sure you're doing the basics, like eating 3 meals a day, making sure you're hydrating throughout the day, getting adequate sleep, and moving throughout the day.
And I know a lot of us are a little overindulgent when it comes to things like coffee, because you start hitting that afternoon wall and you may fire up a fresh pot or head to the Keurig, and that may not be the best beverage option that you have that you can use, right?
I agree with that. I would definitely advise water for hydration, especially because coffee actually has the opposite effect. It actually dehydrates you. So when you are looking for that pick-me-up in the afternoon, I would try to find a different outlet, maybe like getting up for a 5 or 10 minute walk or doing some stretches on the ground, or maybe some jumping jacks.
Well, when it comes to walking, let's get over to Gregg Patterson again. Now, Gregg, you were telling me, this was earlier today, that Move Tallahassee has become one of the larger organizations in town. How many members do you have now?
It's just incredible. With a zero budget, we have 3,000 people have signed up for our email notifications. And prior to the pandemic, twice a month, we would go out on a greenway or in a park, and people would come out from all walks of life, all abilities, and even in this divided nation, they'd come out, walk and smile and talk. And I found with walking, you talk about nutrition, talking about getting out in the parks, and Bryan, I will be on the Miccosukee Greenway as soon as I get off this call today. I think I know every curve out there. But walking is so easy for people to start. I mean, you can walk around your neighborhood, walk to a park, go out on one of the greenways. People like going with Move Tallahassee when we have 40 or 50 people. They felt safe going out on the greenways. But I found that walking, like running, is so portable. And it has so many, to me, it's my best mental, escape, with the high stress. And if I'm trying to think through a problem, if I go out for a walk, I mean, many times the answer appears. And
Well, that is
we can do.
That is something that, again, for those of us who maybe are of a certain demographic, as I like to say, it's a little bit lower impact than a full-blown run, although you can mix and match them. And Mary Jean Yon, talk a little bit about that again, you don't have to be, a full-throated physical fitness aficionado to get some real benefit off of, as Gregg said, whether it's walking or a light jogging, or you want to get into something a little bit more intense. You've got a full range of things you can do.
You do, and thank you for bringing that up. As Gregg was talking, I was thinking about last Thursday, we were out running at Tom Brown Park, and I saw this lady at Piney Z who was like walking, then running a little, then walking, then running a little. And we went back, I got in my car, I'm almost home on Capitol Circle, and there she is, and it's like, she's covering some territory there. And it's a friendly way to get going with things. It's like, okay, this time I'll run for 30 seconds. Next time I might run for a minute. And a lot of programs that people have for, how to become a runner per se, they start with a premise like that, and people build up. And next thing you know, they're not walking as much and they're running maybe slower than quicker. You're right. It's the whole spectrum. And it's just, I think that's just been the joy. You look for the silver lining in all of this stuff, right? And you go out and you hit one of Bryan's trails, or you go to Tom Brown Park and you hit one of the city trails. And it's just, there's so many people out there, and they're walking, they're running, they're run walking, and everyone's achieving that goal of just getting your blood flowing a little bit, getting your blood pressure down a little bit. And it's been real encouraging to see.
And just in case you are tuned into us here on the radio or on WFSU's public media Facebook page, this is a pre-recorded virtual edition of Perspectives. We're talking about recovering a little bit of physical fitness after some enforced, or I should say, homework time because of the current situation. Our special guest, Bryan Desloge, the chair of the Leon County Board of County Commissioners. We also have Tonya Little and Annie Justmann from Premier Health and Fitness. We've got Gregg Patterson from Move Tallahassee, and Mary Jean Yon is with us from Gulf Winds Track Club. And a reminder, if you miss all or any part of a Perspectives program, it is available online, not only on our WFSU.org Facebook page, the website, or our WFSU Public Media Facebook page. We try to have the most recent program up and available for you just as soon as possible after it actually airs on the radio, as this is Thursday morning between 11 and noon. Well, Bryan Desloge, you were name checked, so back to you. What is your favorite trail of all the 700 plus miles of trails we have in Leon County? What's the one that you say, man, this is my number one. I really, really like this one.
Well, because it's so close to me, I live right off of McClay Road, so I can drop. I bootleg behind Sage and that power lines, and I can get into Overstreet, and it just opened officially, although it was getting a lot of use, I hear, before it opened.
I heard the
so
same.
Overstreet, and then up across Meridian, and then back behind all that property that runs down to Lake Jackson. There's a viewing stand over Lake Jackson, and sometimes I can time the run or the ride so that you finish at the end of the day, and it's really pretty watching the sun go down. And that's just because it's so close. The Wildlife Refuge, which is the picture behind me, it's over in St. Mark's, is thousands of acres of wildlife and trails, and it's unbelievable. And there's things like that in all parts of the community. And don't forget all the paddling trails we've got. I mean, I talk to people regularly that moved to our community because of the water we've got, between the Wasissa and the Osceola and the Wakulla and all the coastline. And it's become kind of a mecca for that. And, we put the app together, Tallahassee, and I would welcome people to add to that and give us more input. But the idea is you just go into Tallahassee and say, what's the closest trail to me? There's a lot out there, and I'm always stunned at the locals who don't know some of the trails in our community.
Ultimately, the idea was to interconnect all of our trails so that you had kind of a unified network. You could technically start at the Capitol and walk to Apalachicola if you wanted. I know that budgetary constraints are abounding all over the place right now, but what's the status of that, Bryan? Are we going to see that anytime, say within the next 5-10 years?
You would be surprised. Right now, you can leave the Capitol and you can get as far as Wakulla High School without ever going on a highway. If you hadn't been on it, the St. Mark's Trail, Cascades Park, and then it adds into the St. Mark's Trail, and it goes down to 98, and where the power plant is, there's now 10 miles of trail that runs you to Wakulla High School. And under construction right now is trails that will run along Highway 98 all the way down to Ochlockonee Bay. At Ochlockonee Bay, there's 9 miles of trails that run you over to Sopchoppy. And so we've got on the books plans to build a trail that will run from the Capitol to Monticello, and it'll be along Highway 98 on the outside of the what are the trees that front on Mahan there? Anyway,
Crepe Myrtle.
Crepe Myrtle. Thanks, Gregg. So and it's interesting because there's different types of funding. When you interconnect places like that, it's not always just termed recreation. You actually can pull down transportation funding. And so we've been working on trying to interconnect some of those trails. And to your point, there's a priority list there. Where neighborhoods, parks, schools, what are the places where people would use them the most? So no, absolutely. And bang for the buck in economic development. I mean, it is the best money you can spend. If you can get people out of their cars and on the sidewalks and on the trails and use it as a way to get around in our community, people move places because of that. People move places because they're close to a trail system.
And Bryan, we choose Tallahassee. That's one of our main selling points is our outdoors.
Right.
There's no place like us.
And you can, those of us who went to Boulder a couple years ago, I remember distinctly there was 3 young, middle, 30-something age guys that were semi-retired. They all had the same story, worked for MIT or went to MIT or Harvard or Princeton and then worked for Google or PayPal, and they were semi-retired. But we asked, why'd you move to Boulder? Was it state tax system? Was it education system? No. They can get out backyard, get on a trail and ride for 2 or 3 hours. And they picked Boulder just like people are starting to pick Tallahassee because it became a destination where they could get on their bikes or could get out and run and not be on a road regularly. So it's coming together, Tom, and it is, you know, like I said, Tallahassee is what we're trying to use as the jumping off point for a lot of that.
Which makes perfect sense. And as you were describing that, I suddenly had an urge to move Gregg Patterson and to take a word from the title of your organization. But if I can throw it over to Tonya, for those of us maybe who haven't been moving too much, how do you ease into this without getting into the dreaded, oh my God, that hurt so bad, I'm never going to do that again?
I think you said it right there. You ease into it. A lot of people have the mindset of no pain, no gain when it comes to exercise. And that's really counterintuitive. We know that recommendations are getting 20 minutes of movement a day. So if you've been sedentary since gyms have closed and you've been working from home, just build back up. If you are going walking, you know, you could do an interval-based walk like you would an interval-based run. Make sure you're staying hydrated, stretch. But as soon as we open our doors, you don't need to flood in and work out for 90 minutes. Let your body get adjusted to moving and lifting weights again.
All right. So again, easy into it, and you don't have to, okay, I am going to work out for an hour. That may be a little bit overly optimistic from the get-go. You can get there, but don't do it yet.
Yeah, so again, if you've been sedentary and you've not been doing much since we've closed, ease back into it. But what we've been seeing at Premier, and I think we've been talking about this through the interview, is people are actually very active at this time. They're outdoors. Some people are more active than they were prior to the closure of our workspaces and the gyms. So just listen to your body. If something is painful, back off, and just ultimately listen to your body.
And also listen to your stomach, I might say, Annie Justmann, when it comes to, you don't have to carbo load. You don't have to eat half a pound of pasta before you get out and walk around the block for maybe half an hour. But it is a good idea not to overeat before you get into activity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a light snack, something around maybe 150 to 300 calories, depending on your personal size, would be something good. And I always recommend combining something with some protein and some carbohydrate to fuel yourself well before and after a workout.
Many people also overindulge a little bit before bedtime, and I was reading an article the other day that said that also is not advisable. You should kind of cut off the calories at least a few hours before bedtime so that you can get a more restful and more productive sleep and give your tummy less to do overnight.
Most definitely. Any form of eating is going to cause, obviously, of course, metabolism and digestion, which is going to possibly keep you awake throughout the night when you might not even realize that it was the food that was really keeping you up. So try to find a time where you can kind of cut yourself off. That's going to be personalized for everyone. And if you do find yourself hungry later on at night, you might just be craving something. And I always find that a nice hot cup of tea makes me feel really nice before bedtime. Caffeine free, of course.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to, that would be counterproductive, let's put it that way.
Most definitely.
Okay, well, Gregg Patterson, beyond just getting people out and walking about, what else do you recommend as far as those of us who, again, home-based, stuck in here, you know, at least until the next death-defying mission to grab a couple things at Publix or whatever. What other sorts of things are helpful when it comes to getting up, getting the blood flowing, and hopefully getting the cardio and all those benefits at the same time?
I think, as Tonya mentioned, is just opening the front door and go outside. There's a couple in my cul-de-sac that's, doesn't look like they've ever exercised, but right now they're walking 1/10 of a mile up and down the cul-de-sac. It's starting out one step at a time. And with walking, you just got to take it easy. Go out and walk. But you can walk around your neighborhood. You can get in the car go to one of Bryan's greenways, like I'm going to do in a little bit on the Miccosukee Greenway. I know you're talking about health, mental health. You know, I have a business that's high stress. It's good, but I take a break 2 or 3 times a day now that I'm at home, and I go for a walk, and it just clears the cobwebs. And I think it does a lot for your insulin levels. It does a lot for your bones, and anyone can do it. It's just one step at a time.
And those steps taken during the work day. And Mary Jean, that is really important, because so many folks they will get into the spreadsheets, or they're doing the document feeds, and the emails are unrelenting. I know a lot of folks who I've talked to say they are working harder out of the house than they ever worked in the office. And not just because there's more distractions potentially at home, but just because there's so much that's coming in, it seems, right now from a lot of different sources. And you can't just sit there for 3 and 4 hours at a stretch. You got to get up and do something.
Right. And I was thinking about this earlier. It's really going to be interesting to see what this new normal is that we all go back to, because most people I'm talking to are kind of really enjoying this work from home thing. Like Gregg said, get up, take a break, go for a walk. The time that a lot of people are getting back from not having to drive to and from work is giving them more time to get out. Like, there's some mornings I'll go drive to a trailhead or somewhere, it doesn't even have to be trails, anywhere. And it's like hard to park because everyone had the same idea and they all show up. And it's just, it's kind of nice to see that sort of loosening up and flexibility that people are getting, because they know, okay, well, I'll just, I'll finish what's in my inbox when I get back after lunch or something, and so I like that. It's almost like an air of relaxation to some point, where people just have more time to go out and do active things outside without feeling guilty about it.
It's kind of like there's a reason that the Florida school system actually had to pass a law to put recess back into the schedule of the public schools, which I thought was fascinating. I tell you, Commissioner Desloge, we didn't need a law back in my day to go out and play.
Is that when we went uphill through the snow both ways to get to school?
Yeah, at least 10 miles, right? Well, I got to ask, this is a little aside here, but Mary Jean kind of alluded to it here. And I know you talked to County Administrator Vince Long and Alan Rosenzweig and all those guys there. Have you seen any great decrease in productivity on the part of homebound county employees since we did this big shift? Or are things just kind of cooking along the way that they always have been?
I think, frankly, to Mary Jean's comment, I think people are happier doing it this way. A lot of, and what will the new normal look like? And I think certainly a lot of people who can work from home will probably do more of that. I think we're going to see a big ground shift here. There was always this fear somehow that people would sit home and sleep late and, they would never get their work done. I think most of us understand there's things you have to get done, but you can work in your pajamas if you want, unless you get asked to be put on a video at the last minute, Tonya. or you're on a run. So, but I've actually, in fairness, I've shown up for one of these a couple of weeks ago and forgotten I had a t-shirt on because I was coming in from a run. I look around at everybody else and they've all got jackets on and ties on. I thought, wow, I probably should have planned a little bit better for this. But I think it's mental health is a huge piece of this. And I think what happens is getting outside helps, as Gregg pointed out, to try and ease people's mind. And I think you're going to see a shift, not as many people working in offices and a little bit more home-based. The technology's there. Why not take advantage of it?
Yeah, and for both public and private sector, does that mean a little bit less capital spending? We don't have to have these giant edifices and these giant office complexes and all that kind of thing, that more people might be able to just, do a check-in once or twice a week. The rest of the time, they're back at the house. Yeah,
potentially. And if you take your commute out and the cost to drive and the cost to park and all those other pieces, it really makes a big difference. So to the earlier comment I made, you find a community that's walkable that people can walk to restaurants and they can walk to shopping centers and they can walk to the gym. That makes a big difference in where people choose to live. And I think Tallahassee's got, you know, midtowns like that, Market Square starting to look like that. There are pockets around town that we're purposely putting these sense of place initiatives in place specifically so that we have that kind of environment. You know, you see people that want to stay home more often and just take advantage of what's nearby.
I was just looking out my window here. It's so lovely. They're 1, 2, they're staying apart at least 6 feet. 4, 5 people are walking down my street. 2 of them have dogs. The others, though, are socially distanced, and they're just cruising right along. So again, that seems to be the new normal. Tonya Little, how is this going to change, though, gyms like Premier Health and Fitness? You would mention that at the beginning, that there will be some differences. How do you see that playing out, at least initially, when we go back?
We are taking measures to ensure that social distancing is being enforced at Premier. One thing that is so great about gyms is they provide a very social environment for us. So we're there working on our physical fitness, but we also do have a great boost with our mental fitness because we're socializing. We don't want to lose that aspect when we reopen, but we also are going to be maintaining in our group fitness classes, you know, a 6-foot bubble or a 10-foot bubble. We have to keep people safe. Our industry is health and fitness, and part of that is making the tough calls on what will keep people safe. So when we reopen, and we're just one entity here in Tallahassee, we will have a registration process, and we are asking all of our members to register so that we don't go over our capacity, which is going to be 150 members at that time, assuming that we're in phase 2 of the governor's plan. But we're also going to be closing the gym every 90 minutes, and we're going to have everyone exit so that we can sanitize and clean the facility. And that is going to be our new norm until we find a vaccine or until the state lifts social distancing and restrictions and everyone can be safe.
That seems to be, talk about the new normal, at least part and parcel of the reopening strategy for just about everybody, that you can throw the doors open and that's great, but if nobody comes, what's the point? Mary Jean, you wanted to say something.
I was going to say that's been our challenge with Gulf Winds Track Club as we look at our summer races and just, you know, you can just feel the desire of everyone to come together because we're a social community kind of based entity also. And it's like, oh dear, how do we do this for a race? And like, you know, one idea that we have a summer trail series that typically has been like 4 races through the various trails around the county. And it's like, all right, maybe we push back the start date. The race director's thinking, well, maybe subject to board approval. The race director says, you know, maybe I've carved out a 2-week window and I tell people, here's the trail, here's the course, go out and mark it, and then give people 2 weeks to go and hope that groups larger than 10 don't show up, you know? And it's just, you think about like turkey trot. David and I think about turkey trot a lot. And I'm just going, oh my gosh, you know, it's just so hard to fathom, and no one knows what it's going to look like in November. But 5,000 people towing the line to start turkey trot, it's like, I don't know.
Well, and after that, Jingle Bell Run, all of these other venues that traditionally have attracted thousands of runners there. So yes, that is definitely going to be a big change. And we won't know till we're much closer, of course, to those events exactly how, if even that is going to transpire in a different type of form. So yeah, keep us posted, Mary Jean, because we're interested in how this works out. Well, something else that is coming over. I see it in the background shot here on my email. It is yet another miracle diet that can help us drop pounds, 37 pounds within the first 30 days. It is so great, Annie Justmann. So what do you say about this stuff that comes in? And the keto diets and all these other things that are flying into our inboxes right now. How do we separate that wheat from chaff, literally and figuratively?
Yeah, and that's always been common, all of the different weight loss programs and supplement companies, and that will continue to be popular. But I really urge you to take a minute before you buy into those, and even think about maybe not buying into those. Your health and fitness and well-being is really a product of these small behaviors that you do throughout the day. Again, I'm going to bring it back to what I said earlier, things like making sure you're getting adequate sleep, adequate hydration with water, eating 3 meals a day, and of course, avoiding things like added sugars and alcohol and sodium.
All right, because there's also a lot of places that you can go for good information, not so good information. Please give us an overview of some good information and where those resources can be found.
Absolutely. I strongly urge you to seek out guidance from professionals, of course, and in terms of fitness and nutrition, those are going to be personal trainers and registered dietitians. We have some great places around the city. Of course, Premier is one of the top in the cities. But in terms of websites, Eat Right is a really great place to go for some nutrition advice. And that's where I encourage my clients to check out some things.
Terrific. We've got about, let's see, 7 minutes left in our program here on our virtual perspectives. And in case, again, you are just joining us, of course, online, you can fly back and forth. It's a non-linear kind of thing, but on the radio, we are talking to Bryan Desloge, the chair of the Leon County Board of County Commissioners. We just heard from Annie Justmann, who's a nutritionist out at Premier Health and Fitness, along with Tonya Little, who's program developer and communication specialist there. And we have Gregg Patterson from Move Tallahassee, and from Gulf Winds Track Club, Mary Jean Young. Back to you, Gregg Patterson. The looking forward here for Move Tallahassee as you try to get more people recruited here again, whether it's recovery from an enforced stay in the house doing what needs to be done and getting a little bit out of shape, or trying to attract more folks just from the general population. What's ahead for you guys? What are you going to do?
A couple different aspects we're looking at. With Choose Tallahassee, we've expanded our base from beyond just retired to young professionals, entrepreneurs, and supporting recruitment, like from the hospital and from OEV. And we're starting to get some people reaching out from the larger cities that are looking for a smaller city with the current pandemic that want to relocate. To get back to the walking part, the Move Walks, we have anywhere from 40 to 150 people show up. Obviously, we have the same issue Mary Jean's has if we want to put on an event. So we're going to play that by ear, and maybe we'll do some virtual walks. But I'm trying to encourage through articles in the paper or email blast, open the front door, go for a walk. I mean, right now it's a high stress time. And just what I like from working at home is you're not 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. You know, you've got some flexibility to go out during the middle of the day. And also, just a quick sidebar, I'm a social animal. I'm ready for this to be over with. I want to talk to some people. I think we all have that to a degree, but we have to be safe in the meantime. So we have to promote social distancing and come out in the greenways, walk around your neighborhood, walk in the park, one step.
You were talking about Miccosukee Greenway, and Bryan Desloge, again, that is a big favorite. And there is some history along that greenway too. There is a little cemetery that dates back to probably post-Civil War time. And I remember talking to Gregg Chellis over at the Trust for Public Land and some other historians. Altamise Barnes, she knows every family out there, of course. And that is one of the most historically significant little cemeteries probably in all of Leon County. You have some grave markers that are not markers in the traditional sense. They are parts of cars and tractors because the families couldn't afford a marker.
Yeah, and you know what, it's interesting. So Miccosukee Greenway, 7 miles of linear park. Plans are to add an additional 10 miles, and that's in this round of blueprint. We'll go from Crump Road down behind a number of those little neighborhoods to Roberts Road, all the way down to Centerville and where it hits Bradfordville Road, down Centerville Road to I-10. So you'll have effectively 17 miles of linear greenway, which really, and I'm still stunned at the number of people in our community that just discovered Miccosukee Greenway, you know, and it's right in town. It's not really like it's hidden. So, and there are a lot of those type of things around. I'm real proud of what we've done. So.
Well, it's like the little pocket park that sits down off of Call Street between there and the railroad tracks that you almost never see except for some of the neighborhood folks there. And it winds around through this deeply forested area. You think that you are in Madagascar, but you are smack dab in the middle of Tallahassee, Florida. And you hear the birds and see the wildlife run by, and we have these things all over the place.
It's on the Heritage Trail, goes from Alford Arm to Frederick all the way to Tom Brown, you know, by Piney Z, and you can actually follow it all the way almost to the Tallahassee Democrat. And a lot of people don't know that exists.
Yeah, and that is available online, though. That is on, where's the best website as far as mapping out all of the different greenways and trails that we have?
Use Tallahassee. We're constantly improving. We just added 5 more miles of trails at Alford Greenway. And so, and if it's not on there, let us know, because we're trying to constantly improve that. But our goal is to have the app so that anywhere in town you can pick it up and get on Tallahassee and what's the closest trail to me right now, so that we can hand that off to, you know, people that are visiting, and it's a bike trail, and it'll tell you it's a bike trail, it's a running trail, it's you know, whatever type of trail it is.
As long as we're with you here, Commissioner, in the few moments that we have left, any final thoughts from you as far as, again, getting them up and revved up and ready to, if not reopen, at least work more efficiently and energetically from the house, if that is our future for the foreseeable?
Well, we want to see you out on the trails. I will tell you that we have a beautiful community, and we have, to a large degree, in part because of some of the healthier people. We're really, I think we've done a nice job and dodged a bullet here to some degree. But frankly, the trails and the outdoor facilities in our community have a lot to do with that. People have the ability to get outside and stay healthy. So I would say encourage them, because I'm a statistic of the COVID-10. I'm not going to say 15, but I certainly need to spend more time on the trails. But great show, Tom. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Bryan. It's always a pleasure to have you on there. And what's the next mountain you're going to climb? Got to ask.
I got to keep my head down for a while. This chairman stuff's keeping me kind of busy. Stay tuned. All
righty, sir. We'll catch you during the next county commission meeting. I know you guys are going to have a full agenda. Tonya Little, any final thoughts from you as you eagerly anticipate getting out to Premier Health and Fitness once the grand reopening takes place?
I think my final thoughts are just to remind everyone, stay safe during this time. Let's be kind to one another, and let's also be patient, because we're all weeding through new terrain that's foreign. So just stay active, be kind, and be patient.
Okay. Any tasty thoughts that you'd like to wrap up with, Annie Justmann?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Tonya. Just avoid setting too large of expectations. Be realistic with yourself and be kind to yourself.
Oh, and just junk that whole no pain, no gain mantra that is a holdover from the 80s, right?
Yes, and it is not all or nothing. So if you don't need to start on Monday, you could start with your next choice.
Okay, very good. Yeah, we and please don't wear ankle warmers, whatever you do. I can't believe that was a thing. Gregg Patterson from Move Tallahassee, sir.
If you want to sign up for our future walks, if you go to meetup.com and you join Move Tallahassee, you will get an email notification the next time we walk. But I encourage everyone to start today. Open that front door, walk out, walk in your neighborhood, go out on one of our greenways, go into one of our parks, get outside. I think we spend 93% of our lives indoors. Get outside. It's good for between your ears. Lower the stress.
I have a feeling that Mary Jean Yon is going to second that motion there, right, Mary Jean?
Pretty much. I agree with the stay active, stay safe. And for those who are, creative and wanting to help us figure out ways to do organized races, let us know. Keep an eye on golfwins.org and our Facebook page to see what creative ideas we come up with.
Here is hoping that all of our active folks with Gulf Winds get back up, because you guys also provide an awful lot of firepower when it comes to the nonprofit folks around the area too, because I can't think of too many organizations that have not relied on Gulf Winds over the years to kind of help raise some money and get everybody into a finer fettle as far as things happening around our community. So to Bryan Desloge and Mary Jean Yon, Gregg Patterson, Tonya Little, and of course, Annie Justmann, thank you so much for joining us on this special virtual pre-recorded edition of Perspectives from WFSU Public Media. And that is who produces our show. We thank Taylor Cox, Paul Dam, Tricia Moynihan, and Lydell Rawls. Our director of content is Kim Kelling, and we thank him for setting up our program interface and keeping us all in the direction in which we should be going. I'm Tom Flanigan. Even as we watch our calories, there are far too many folks in our area, though, for whom healthy calories remain elusive. And that food insecurity has only been exacerbated and increased exponentially by the pandemic and resulting economic downturn. We're going to talk with some folks who are working to address that issue head on right here on next week's Perspectives from WFSU Public Media. Take care.